Welcome in to Moving the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Drell Hendricks. Got a great interview today for a ring season recap. A very special guest, the head coach of the 2023 1A state champion Christchurch Cavaliers, Quinn Hatfield. Coach, how you doing today?
Man, doing well. Appreciate y'all having me on board.
Well, we appreciate your time as always. If this is you guys' first time tuning in, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. at Moving Chains, website movingchains.com, and our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. This was Coach Hatfield's fourth season as the head coach of the Cavaliers, and they went 13-2 on their way to their second consecutive state title. Coach, for folks to get to see you guys play this year, what would you kind of say was the maybe the scheme or the style for you guys on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, well, man, started on the offensive side of the ball. Had a lot of playmakers. Had some really good players coming back that we continue to build our offense around. Had a quarterback step in as a first-year starter that had a tremendous season. But end of the day, we had a lot of playmakers. We were able to get the ball to them in space and let them do their thing. Very seasoned offensive line that helped us, scheme and do some things. Defensively, it's who we are defensively. We talk about attack-based, playing fast and physical. And, we had a lot of guys off our 22 class that were big players we had to replace. And so the defensive unit, we had some challenges early, not that we didn't offensively, but we had some, for example, entire secondary we had to replace. And so did a ton of 7-on-7s would help them. But as the year went on, them guys just got so much better. And then we just take a lot of pride. And I know most coaches are going to say that and went into third phase and special teams, but we have every period of every practice, not every period. We have periods of every practice for special teams, and make sure we put a strong emphasis on that. And we ended up finding a really good kicker that came off the soccer team, and that helped us have a big weapon in that third phase.
Coach, the numbers are staggering. I mean, on offense, you guys put up 44 a game. You held those opponents, even though you had that young defense, held opponents to 16 points per game. I love shouting out the players. Me and Kevin joked all year. Tucker Hendricks, you mentioned your quarterback that stepped up, called him my cousin all year as he just grew up in front of us. Right. But if you don't mind shouting those guys out, those special players that you had on the offensive, defensive sides of the ball.
Yeah, well, so let's start with defense. All right, defense buckle it down. So I think we had two linebackers that played a lot of snaps for us. Middle linebacker Jake Good, he was just a force, and that guy on defense to set the tone. Cooper Ronchek as an outside linebacker just made a ton of plays, and up front on the defensive line, guys like Patrick McMaster, he played both ways. Grant Strohmeyer both ways, and then development of guys like Will Margee, Elijah Garrett. So many of the guys stepped up. And then our back end, we Jude Hall, one of our receivers, ended up starting at corner for us, became a lockdown corner. And that was like game 7 where he made that transition. And AC Hatfield as a safety really stepped in, had a great year for us, second leading tackler. And Luke Baumhofer at the other safety. Man, we do so much with our safeties and moving. He was such a strong player. And then Ann Atkins and Matt Covington at corner. Those guys really stepped up for us. Offensively, you mentioned Tucker Hendricks. This is an offense, y'all mentioned it, that was high-powered, and we broke a school record for most points scored in a year. And we've had some good offense through here, throughout the last several years and last decade, and had a lot of good players. But, Tucker Hendricks engineered that. And Deshaun Reeder at running back, man, talk about a dude back there now. He can go. And so when we didn't give him the ball off, the opposing defense had to account for him, and that allowed us to do different things in the passing game. But I mentioned the offensive line. I can't mention all of them, but the entire – I will mention a guy that didn't get a lot of shout-out. Martin Russo. Y'all might not even know his name, our center. He did not have an errant snap the entire season, and that's big, right? When you're in the shotgun a lot and doing what we do and so many snaps. So in addition to a lot of those other guys that I mentioned, and then Jackson Rep, what a season he had in terms of special teams, but also on the offensive side of the ball, getting him the ball in space, let him go to work. He just had tremendous numbers. And, that dude can flat play, just so dynamic. And development of Jude Hall and the wide receiver and Matt Covington and some of those guys. So, a lot of guys developed, had some good ones coming back, but we just had so many guys contribute. And I think that goes back to why we're so effective. You take one thing away, we'll go to the other thing.
Coach, talked off air. You having some coaches meetings today and whatnot, and you guys have a great staff that's been together for a while now. It feels like. Who are some of those guys that are a big part of what you guys do that you want to kind of give some shout out to here today?
Yeah, man. Oh, you put our coaching staff. We got a heck of a coaching staff. I'll say this. just great men of influence, number one, and then dang good football coaches. So, I just met with John Wyndham. I mean, he's our defensive coordinator. Coach Wyndham's the guy that, man, he's been a head coach at a collegiate level. I mean, he's been a defensive coordinator at Furman. He's been a head coach at Easley at the high school level. So, tremendous experience, does a great job of scheming, putting us in position to win on the defensive side. Todd Cunningham's our offensive coordinator, and, he's done this since I've been here. He's had a little bit of experience before that. But, again, as our staff, we've gotten so much better at collaborating and evolving our scheme. So he did a heck of a job this year running that offense. Ken Ramey, our offensive line coach. You got to have a good offensive line to be effective. So he gets those guys ready. And, Keon Talbert, the defensive line. And, man, if I don't mention one of these guys, they're going to be upset with me. Coach Richburg, our receivers coach. I mean, receivers made a lot of plays. He's on those guys. He gets those guys ready, does a great job of connecting, develop our players. Josh Jackson, one of our defense coaches. Both of those guys are alumni, by the way, Coach Jackson and Coach Richburg, which is great. They were here and we had the heyday back in the 2015, 16, that era, 14. And then we got other guys like Tim Brown, Shatwan Reeder, Jimmy Von Wild, Luke Pipko. I mean, all those guys just do a great job. How about Joel Rice? Y'all know Joel Rice? Y'all don't know Joel Rice. No. Joel Rice is our football ops guy, works for special teams, 58 years of coaching. He got his 10th state championship, and guess
what? 2
hands. He's 10-0 in state championship game. Got to keep
pretty tough.
Got to keep him around. And God, man, if I missed anybody out there, I apologize, y'all. But it's a lot of our staff, and we all work very well together. And the good thing about us, I say the good thing, it's been a blessing. I'll say that most of these guys have been around since I've been here. So when you have that coaching continuity, that just pays dividends, with regard to player development and schematics and, all of those things.
I guess I got a motto for you for this all season. One for the toe. Is that what we're going to do this year?
Hey, Joe Rice will like that. I'll tell him that. Yeah.
Well, Coach,
Coach, I know I'm getting older. I think Coach Rice is 89. He said, if you don't want me around anymore, I said, Coach, as long as I'm here, you're here, and I mean that. He's a heck of a guy, a lot of wisdom, and, dang good football guy.
Before we jump into this state title run, I want to go to the offseason. Mentioned you guys went back to back. What was it like, having that target on your back, and how did it respond? Because you mentioned earlier you had to replace some very key guys from last year's team. So what was it like 7-on-7, your weight training program, but a lot of this offseason as you prepared for this run?
Yeah. We never really talked about repeating. That was never something that was sort of in the discussion. We talked about recommitting. That was kind of the word. And our guys knew we had a lot of key players graduate from that 22 run. So that in and of itself kind of created a challenge. But, no, you're right. I mean, target on your back. I mean, I'm not going to give any coaches speak like that. It was a challenge. We knew everybody was coming after us. But we had a little saying this year, and it was go back, G-O-B-A-C. Most people look at it and it's like, oh, well, y'all were going back. Well, ultimately, that was sort of the play on that, but it was really go be a champion. And we talked about that, go be a champion in the weight room, go be a champion in the classroom, go be a champion in the film room, go be a champion at practice. And if we're a champion every day, then you'll get a chance to go back to the state championship, which we did. And obviously we hoisted that trophy, and it was awesome. So we talked a lot about that, and we kept our guys grounded, and it helped with some external buzz that was out there. We found different ways to motivate guys during the year.
For sure. Looking at that state title game, Coach, you guys won, dominating fashion, 67-21 over Johnsonville. What did you guys do so well in that game in particular to let you, really be so dominant?
Yeah. Well, I think I go back to just the preparation that we had. We just felt like we kind of had a good idea what they were going to do and knew that we could take a few things away, right? So I think we did a good job of being us and taking away who they are, right? I think number one thing, but let's be honest, we caught some momentum early. First play of the game, they coughed it up. We swarmed the ball. But again, I point that out to say if you do a freeze frame on that, which I've done and I've shown our team, we had 8 guys to the ball. And we do pursuit drill on every Monday. We talk about 9 and 5. 9 guys within 5 yards of the ball. And you do that freeze frame, you see guys swarming, that's sort of it encapsulates sort of who we are as a unit. They coughed it up. Then we knew they were going to blitz, one-on-one coverage, threw it up backside. So, boom, score early, get a stop, get the ball to running back, got a little bit on the outside. We thought we could hit them on a play, then get them in another position, return a punt, right? Talk about special teams. We put a punt return in for that game we hadn't had in all year. And it busted for a touchdown because you got a guy like Jackson Rebb. You got guys on special teams that, were ready for those blocks. So I think we caught momentum early, but I think at the end of the day, we were able to really exploit their weaknesses and leverage what our strengths were, and kind of did that early and got rolling. And then it was just a compounding effect.
Just a great day for you guys in that state title game. Everything seemed to come together. You guys were lighting it up on offense, causing and forcing, defensive turnovers, wreaking havoc, big plays on that end, and then also the big special teams plays as well. How fun was it for you to kind of see your team performing at, their best level, clicking on all three phases in the most important game of the season?
And it was extremely satisfying. I was so happy for our team, and got a chance to compete for another state championship. But I think the thing about this team was, and that's what championship teams do, but man, we were so dominating down the final stretch. And we weren't like that when we started the season. Now, again, we're playing different competition, but to see guys develop and to see our scheme develop and evolve and to see guys play at such a high level down that stretch. I mean, the week before that, I know you're talking about state championship game, but Upper State, we got all over St. Joe's. The time we played them just a few weeks earlier, man, that game's 28-21 with 3.5 minutes left in the game. I mean, it's a dogfight. So, just that buy-in, that continued engagement. I mean, we were flying around that last week of practice. Guys were still having fun, right? So as a coach, that's what you want to see. And then to get that high-level execution, it all came together. So it was awesome, man. I mean, that was a day that we'll all remember, man, a Friday afternoon kickoff for the state championship game and go get after a team that had, let's just say, had some stuff to say about you. I don't know it could have been any more satisfying.
Coach, one of my most, I'd say, favorite plays from that ball game was a touchdown run late in the game by Patrick McMaster, an offensive lineman. Most of the time, I guess you could say. Is that something that you guys actually ever practiced, or was just like, hey, we've got an opportunity, let's do this now? Or how did that kind of come about, and how excited were the guys up front and the rest of the team for Patrick?
Man, first of all, Patrick McMaster, I mean, you talk about a dude that is about what our program's about. Just an incredible young man, hard worker. And so to answer your question, do we practice that? Well, here's what happens. We're running scout team offense, and Patrick starts on defense, and he gets the snaps in. When he's back there with me, scout team wanting to run the ball. And I'm thinking in my mind, dude, you're going to run in there and turn an ankle, but he really wants to play quarterback on the scout team and running back. So he'd had a little bit of work and skill, on the scout team, but we not anything that was planned, but I tell you what we did do that kind of, I guess, set the tone for this or whatever, precedent. On senior night this year, the Thursday before we played on that Friday night, I had all the offensive linemen go on the field. And, we did I punted the ball, and they had to catch it. And I got decent leg. I got some decent air time on it, so it wasn't like a little pooch, Yeah. So, we just did a process of elimination, a little tournament. You catch it, you move on, you drop it, you're out. So Lincoln Weldy, one of our dudes that we haven't mentioned, he did a fantastic job for us this year, both sides of the ball, battled some injuries, but he's a warrior. He won that. So he was the last guy standing. So the first touchdown we scored on senior night, we'd already had a play for him. He's offensive line, put him in the backfield, man. He hit that hole and busted it up, 2-point conversion, offensive lineman's dream. So state championship game, I didn't tell any of our coaches, didn't tell any of our players. I had that in the back of my mind. All right, if we can get a lead, we're going to get McMaster in there. And that was where we got down there. And I think Patrick was actually playing on the offensive line. So we ran a guy in, pulled him off the line, put him in the backfield. And he toted that thing, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. He got after it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, though. And that'll be a memory that he'll have for the rest of his life. And he's earned that for everything he's given to this program.
Coach, you mentioned the development of this particular team. We saw you guys week 0 breaking in that new offense, especially. And also you had a few weeks later, you played Riverside. That didn't go your way. Started off 2-2, rip off 13 in a row. How important was that for the development of your team, that non-region schedule against those bigger schools to get ready and prepare you, for that state title run?
Yeah, I mean, I that's exactly what you said. You're right. I mean, that did prepare us. I mean, that's we were intentional with scheduling those games. We knew Great Collegiate was going to be tough, going down there, opening the season. And we learned some things about, the character of our team, certainly the ability of our team, that we had to, really take a hard look at. And I think in some ways it was really good. I mean, y'all were there. I mean, we were in that game and then had that sort of middle eight got away from us. Really, it was the last 2 minutes of the first half and early second half, and make a few plays, and we turned it over too much. But we saw some things, right, to build off of. And then, we had a dogfight with the Asheville school, and, that was out of state, so not a lot of coverage here from the state. I mean, we had to block an extra point at the end of that game, score late, block extra point to win that game. They went on to win the state championship for Division II and Independent League up there. They were a dang good football team. So, again, found out some more about our team. They had to turn around and play Riverside. And, Riverside game, we're up 28-21 going into fourth quarter. And again, Riverside made the plays, but shot ourselves in the foot. Got a pump block, missed a block, got a quick interception, had a deep ball thrown on us. Just things that we looked at, said, we got to clean this up, right? We got to be better prepared, but when we got to just execute, right? And I think fatigue got us a little bit. So we adjusted for that, did some things. And but those games, to answer your question, helped us get on a trajectory that we talked about a few minutes ago that kept us sort of climbing. So learned a lot, handle some adversity, you learn about your team, and it helped us in the long run.
Got a couple easier ones here for you, Coach. We'll let you go. You mentioned him earlier, your son, AC Hatfield.
Yeah.
How special is that getting to coach him, and how much, are you enjoying going through the high school years, at the varsity level with him?
Yeah, man, it's been awesome. Man, it's just he worked so hard in the offseason. He's one of them guys that probably as a sophomore could have helped us on varsity. He wouldn't have started, but we kept him on JV, and he developed, and he got an opportunity to start this year, and he earned it, and he had a heck of a year. But no, it's really cool having your son out there. And I'd coached him when he was younger, and that sort of thing. So we kind of always been around it. But going back to Coach Rice. This is really – I remember I coached Rice, how years of experience. Mm-hmm. He told me something a couple of years ago. This is when AC was playing middle school football, and he had a tough game. And, I was like, I'm going to coach him up, right? But I'm not coaching in middle school, but I'm going to coach him up. And Coach Rice just told me in the way he does things, he said, hey, remember, he's going to have a lot of coaches, but he's only got one dad. And so I've tried to keep that too. He's got a position coach. Coach Pipko coaches our safety, does a great job. Coach Wyndham coaches our defense, coaches him, right? Other coaches, I'm his head coach, but I'm also his dad, and that's tough at times. But I feel like I've, you ask me, ask my wife, she might have a different answer, but I feel like I've done a pretty good job of balancing that and just trying to enjoy that. And I think he has too, man. It's always an interesting dynamic, and but I'm very grateful for that opportunity.
Coach, I'll preface this question. I am a barbecue fanatic, specifically whole hog barbecue. I was scrolling my Twitter machine, around Christmas time, and I saw that you were able to go back home to Manning.
Yeah.
Some say Clarendon County's the barbecue capital of the world.
Right.
Can you teach me how to make some whole hog barbecue?
We can get you done, man. And look here, you got to invest a little bit of time. You got 24 hours, but we'll make it well worth your time. The fellowship and then the food. Yeah, we can do it. Now you just got to stay up all night. We got to really get after it, but we can do it, man. You tell me when you want to do it. I got to pick on you.
That sounds great. You got any secrets or maybe some special tricks that you like to do with your pigs?
Well, I'm not going to pretend like I'm the expert. I'm more there in the support role. I'll put that fire, get the coals under there. My cousins and my uncle, they're more of actually bringing the product to life. But, I can't give you the secret sauce because then, it just wouldn't be fair,
I got to make the trip down there, kind of get initiated before we can do that.
Exactly right. You got to earn it, Drew. You got to earn that thing, man.
I'm totally fine with it.
I love it. Well, last one here for you, Coach. Obviously, you guys had a super special season, state title, 13-2. Yeah. What do you think will be kind of the one thing that you really remember from this team and from this season down the road?
Probably the connection that this team had. We talk a lot about loving each other and loving to compete, and You know, this team, we just graduated some really good leaders, and that was a question mark. Who's going to step up? But the way this team just came together, and I think what I'm saying by that is it was very little complaining. You know, and that's hard in today's age. Very little selfish. I didn't get enough tackles. I didn't get enough playing time. We just didn't really have that on this team. And I think when you have that, it just made the experience that much more enjoyable for everybody involved. So I think I'll just remember the connection, and then also the level at which this team played from where we started to where we finished, and that climb and then the finish on top of the mountain. But the start to the finish was pretty remarkable.
Well, this has been great. I want everyone to go check out Coach Hatfield and the Cavaliers program on Twitter and Facebook. They do a great job sharing updates on their kids and highlights and whatnot. Definitely follow them on there. Like I mentioned, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. at Moving Change, movingchange.com. Podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Moving Change brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Drill, anything else for Coach? We'll let him go today.
Coach, just congratulations. You've built quite the program there. You guys just get it done. You do it the right ways as well. So just want to say congratulations to you, that community, your coaches. You guys have great coaches on that staff, and then your players, of course. The student athletes there do a fantastic job. Looking forward to catching up with you in the offseason. And you guys are obviously going to be moving classifications, but hopefully we'll get to do this again in a year, you know, if everything falls correctly.
Hey, would love to, man. Hey, appreciate everything you guys do for high school football, the coverage, and you know, it makes a difference and it matters.
Well, we appreciate that, Coach. I do want to commend you. You know, last year we did this. You said, let's go ahead and put it on the calendar for next year. We'll do it again, and you know, here we are. So 2 in a row. That's pretty special.
All the shot.
We'll see if we can get 3. But congrats on back-to-back, Coach. Appreciate what you guys have done for us over the years. It's been great to get to know you and whatnot. And best of luck, and we'll chat soon. All right.
Sounds good. Hey, thank y'all. Go Cavs.